WFYI podcasts are brought to you by Visit Bloomington. Bloomington, Indiana is home to a wide range of live music events and venues. More info on upcoming performances at musicbloomington.com.
This is WFYI News Now. It's December 28th, and I'm Aubriana Herron. Coming up, a housing program for older people living with HIV and AIDS finds success.
Without proper housing, it greatly affects HIV care.
That's coming up, but first, these headlines. Indianapolis created a new team earlier this year that allows mental health clinicians to respond to crisis calls without police. Katrina Pross reports on how the program is going.
The Clinician-led Community Response Team started operations in July. The team works in 3-person units and responds to a variety of calls, like welfare checks and connecting people with mental health resources. The program currently only operates in the city's downtown district from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day. Starting in January, the team plans to increase those hours to 24 hours a day. Julie Bingham is the Deputy Director for Behavioral Health at the city's Office of Public Health and Safety. She says calls have been steadily rising.
The community is very aware and starting to hear more about this amazing program.
The program also plans to expand to the city's East District starting next year. I'm Katrina Pross.
Fatal overdoses fell in 2022, the first time since 2018, according to the latest Next Level Recovery Progress Report. The state report shows that overdoses fell 5% in that period of time. The annual report compiles data across state agencies that work to combat substance use. Indiana drug czar Doug Huntsinger says one reason for the downward trend is the state's approach to combating substance use.
We're looking at this in a holistic kind of 360 view lens as to how do we help make someone successful in their recovery.
Huntsinger points to an increase in naloxone distribution, the expansion of residential treatment beds, and the state's recovery hubs that can help people find housing or employment. Huntsinger also says this is the first year Indiana has been able to utilize funds from the opioid settlements for community programs. The state is set to receive more than $900 million from multiple settlements with opioid manufacturers and distributors for their role in the opioid epidemic. And Indiana's unemployment rate ticked up last month to 3.7%. Brandon Smith reports that's the highest the rate has been in more than 2 years.
A 3.7% unemployment rate for Indiana matches the national unemployment rate. That's the first time the state rate hasn't been lower than the overall U.S. rate in more than 3.5 years. An economic outlook delivered to state lawmakers this week projects employment growth will slow significantly in 2024 and forecasts job losses in the 2 years after that. Still, that same forecaster a year ago predicted Indiana would see jobs increase by just 0.4% this year. Job growth has actually been around 2% for the Hoosier state. Indiana's labor force participation rate, a key number that measures both people with a job and those actively looking for work, halted a 3-month decline in November, holding steady at 63.3%, better than the national rate. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Brandon Smith at the State House.
The holiday season brings a lot of joy, but also an increased risk for fatal conditions, such as heart attacks. Farah Usuri reports studies found that heart attack deaths spike around this time of year.
Experts with the American Heart Association say there are several potential factors behind this. Winter weather may result in restricted blood flow when arteries can get constricted due to cold temperatures. This can increase the risk of a heart attack, especially in people with pre-existing heart issues. The holidays can also bring a lot of added stress to some people. There are also more parties and social gatherings than usual, which means people may overindulge in yummy foods and drinks that aren't exactly healthy. Finally, some may delay a visit to the doctor until after the holidays. Experts advise people should know the symptoms of a heart attack and learn how to perform CPR. They also say people should celebrate in moderation and not let the festivities come in the way of taking their medicines on time. I'm Farah Usri, Side Effects Public Media.
And for our final story today, a housing program that targets older people living with HIV and AIDS finds success. Jill Sheridan reports on the future of Damien Center's Elder Housing Program.
The Housing Opportunity for Persons with AIDS, or HOPWA Program, has been able to connect 33 people with permanent supportive housing since it began. Leslie Shaw is 66 years old and lives on Indianapolis's Far East Side. He had to take early Social Security.
It was just getting harder and harder to keep all my bills paid.
The Damien Center was awarded $2 million for the initiative, which helps pay half of Shaw's rent. HOPWA Elder Team Leader Brady Laughlin says stable housing is key to health care.
That without proper housing, it greatly affects HIV care due to a lot of different reasons. But first and foremost, it keeps people out of care.
Grant funding for the program will end in the coming months. Laughlin says they're working to find other ways to help seniors, including joining voucher waitlists or senior living opportunities. I'm Jill Sheridan.
That's all for today's episode of WFYI News Now. Our podcast is produced by the following people who live in your community: Darian Benson, Drew Dodlin, Kendall Antron, who composed the music for this podcast, and me, Aubriana Herron. Our news director is Sarah Neal Estes. If you like today's episode, remember to subscribe and share, and follow WFYI on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube to check in on our newsroom throughout the day. Thanks for listening, and we've got a long weekend for the holidays, so we're off Friday and Monday, but we'll be back right after the new year.
WFYI podcasts are brought to you by Visit Bloomington. Bloomington, Indiana is home to a wide range of live music events and venues. More info on upcoming performances at musicbloomington.com.